Good evening. I am Amadin Ogbewe. Now, as the Labour Party and its presidential candidate, former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, continues to gain momentum, many have begun to wonder how the youth will be integrated into the party's processes and how the youths will play a part in the government should the Labour Party's mission to Aso Rock be successful come 2023. Tonight, my guest is the National Youth Leader of the Labour Party, Engineer Anslem Eragbe. He speaks to me about the Labour Party's mission and the role of the youths. All right, Engineer Eragbe, welcome to Top Talk.
Thank you very much.
All right, as the National Youth Leader of the Labour Party, you would be concerned with your constituency, which is the youth. And now, online, I'm sure it's no news to you as it is to anyone else that the Labour Party is gaining momentum amongst a demographic, which is the youth. And now people see youths doing things on their own, mobilizing, planning. Now, I'd like to know from the party perspective, what is being done that people don't know about? How is the party itself, mobilizing these youths? What's going on behind the scenes that, the party is not just allowing youths go on their own, but actually trying to, bring them in and, work together?
Thank you. Again, my name is Comrade Eragbe Anslem, the National Youth Leader, Labour Party. Again, I'm the Edo North Senatorial candidate for the party in the 2023 general elections. The duties of the office of the National Youth Leader of Labour Party, one of them is for the National Youth Leader to initiate and implement programs and policies in line with party rules, regulation with respect to youth mobilization. Now, what we have done, because as it stands today, it is clear that it is the youth of this country that are driving this process. Now, the aspect of demography comes to play immediately, because if democracy, like I've had cause to say on few fora, is the government of the people, for the people and by the people. And if it's a game of number, it then means the bigger stakeholders in this equation are the youth. So the youth have come to this realization that they have a role to play, being the major stakeholders. Now, part of my duty is to mainstream the activities of the youth and the support groups, volunteer groups, the CSOs, the NGOs, the unions, as they are, into the party's activities. So what we have done basically is we have designed, first and foremost, an administrative process. It's an online process, basically. We have developed what is called the Labour Party National Mobilization website. Now, that website has 6 portals. Now, the first portal is for the registration of the support groups. Of course, you are aware the support group, this is a volunteer force, people who in themselves have decided to support our principal, primarily His Excellency Peter Obi and Senator Yusuf Dati, our vice presidential candidate. And similarly, other candidates for the election. But that said, on June 3rd, basically, I put out a notice to Nigerians, particularly the groups, the support groups, that I have a duty to mainstream their activities, because you are aware that this group began with our principal, right from the PDP. But immediately came into Labour Party and became the presidential candidate. I put out a notice to say, you need to come in, we need to work together. So, and they began to respond very positively. So on that portal, the leaders of the support groups will log in to that portal with their details and register. Now, when they register, the portal issues a feedback, and that feedback is a certificate of recognition and approval. You probably may have seen those certificates being issued. Now, in the last, let's say almost 2 weeks, that process is on hold now because we had to complete work at the back end of the this website. Because like I said, it has 6 portals. So effectively, 4 of those portals are fully operational. So I've just talked about the portal that registers support groups. Now, when the support group leaders register and the system issues a certificate automatically, now that certificate comes with a 4-ID system. The first ID is called the system-generated ID. It's a unique ID. The second is called the national ID. So the support group certificate has a national ID. It tells us how many support groups ultimately there are from number 1 to the last. Again, the third ID is called a state ID. So we're able to know how many support groups are in every state of the federation. The fourth ID is called a local government ID. Again, it tells us where in the state is this support group headquartered. That is one. The second portal and the third portal. The second portal is for Nigerians with PVC. The third portal is for the diaspora Nigerians with PVC or without PVC. Now, again, the first portal I talked about, which is the support group portal, is for registration of support groups at home in Nigeria and in the diaspora. Now, you would have noticed that across the world, there are a lot of support groups supporting our presidential candidate and our vice presidential candidate. So they have been able to log on to register and be issued those certificates. Now, on the fourth portal, now let me quickly explain the second and the third portal. Now, when the individuals with PVC log on to register successfully and that registration submits, now they have a feedback. The portal issues here.
Please just hold that up for a moment. We'll go on a quick break now. When we return, we'll start right where you stopped there about the portals. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Now we'll be going straight back into the program. So where we stopped, you were talking about how you've been bringing these groups together. I'd just like to know, do you have access to the spread of it? Because people believe the Labour Party is not popular in the northern region. What can you say about what you are getting, the feedback from that region of the country?
Well, certainly the feedback is a national spread. It's even a global spread, really, as it were. Because from the 36 states and the FCT, the summary, within 3 days of the commencement of that registration of support groups online, we had about 1,000 groups registered across the federation. So, and this spread is national across the 36 states and the FCT. Like I said, it's global, really, because across the continents of the world, we have our diaspora supporters who have registered. So many evidences. So, and this registration will continue till 25th of September, 3 days to the commencement of the presidential campaigns. We'll stop the registration of support groups. So by way of projection, we are looking at thousands of them coming, not less than 20 or more thousands of the groups locally and in the diaspora.
What about those persons who are not part of groups? Because I have come across this where the Labour Party says it wants the leaders of the support group or the support group are not just individuals, but, the way it is on social media, there's so many people that are scattered who believe in the idea or the candidate. Is there anything being done to bring those people or, those persons who are, constantly doing their own version of mobilization that might not be a support group?
Yes, basically there's room for individual and independent mobilization, but for effectiveness, because what is the point? You are not being captured in the mainstream. Because the essence of what we are doing is to ensure that we mainstream. And the idea of mainstreaming is to bring everybody into the fold. So that, because there is a job or work to be done out there, we call that effective polling unit mobilization. And what we have done deliberately is to put in place a 28-man polling unit mobilization executive. In every polling unit in Nigeria. There are 176,864 of such polling units. So with a 28-man polling unit executive that we have put in place, it gives us approximately 5 million So Labour Party is putting in place a 5 million man polling unit or grassroots mobilization force.
Let me get it correctly. A polling unit would have how many?
Now, ideally, a polling unit takes up to about 700, between 5 and 700 by the INEC configuration.
No, I mean the Labour Party reps or the Labour Party persons that you expect to be there, like the agents or whatever you want to call them.
Yes.
Those persons that will be
The
there.
number?
Yes.
Yeah, 28. Now, 28. But the mobilization factor is 15.
Okay.
28 by 15, where we have a 25-man polling unit executive. By 15 gives you 375. 375 over 176,864 give you about 66 million plus. But if we integrate the polling unit agents, because what we have done deliberately, I began to explain the portal.
Yeah.
The portals. To see there are 6 portals.
Yeah.
In summary, there's a portal. Portal 1 is for registration of the support groups at home and in the diaspora. Portal 2 and portal 3 are for the registration of the individuals, eligible voters. Now, in the course of that registration, they are able to identify with their own support groups, specific support groups. So those of us in the admin are able to see each support group and the strength of its membership. Now, portal 4 has to do with, we have developed 277 working committees under 10 subheadings to engage Nigerians, both now and after now, in the course of the government. Now, when you do your registration on this portal, it gives you a feedback on engagement. Again, I began to explain the feedback from the second portal, second and third portal, individual registration. It comes with a 6 unique identification system. The first ID is called a national ID. It tells us how many people ultimately are there. This time around, I'm talking of eligible voters because we have tied the INEC portal to our portal.
Okay.
So as an individual, if you log on to register, it asks for your PVC details. That is to ensure that you are an eligible voter. So we don't need to...
Isn't there a threat of privacy?
No, that's why it's private. It is between you and the system. So you get the point. So it is private. So nobody is privy to what you are doing. It is the information you put there through, of course, your valid PVC already contains your personal details. They are personal to you. So we are not reinventing the wheel. But for you to submit on that portal, you must be an eligible voter as configured by INEC. So when you put in these details and log on and register, the system gives you a feedback, exactly what you put in there. But without that PVC details and some other determinants, you cannot submit. So the portal is not meant for everybody. Again, once you have done that successfully and you have a feedback, it comes with a 6 ID system. Now for us, what it does is it tells us how many people ultimately are registered to vote for the Labour Party in the elections of 2023. 2, it gives us a state ID. It tells us how many people in every state have so identified to vote for the Labour Party. Again, it tells us, gives you a local government ID. Again, that ID will tell us how many people there are in every local government in Nigeria that have identified with Labour Party to equally vote for those elections. It gives you a ward ID, which is the 4th ID. The ward ID, again, tells us in specific terms how many people in this particular ward, of the over 8,800 political wards in Nigeria, were able to know. Now, it gives you the polling unit ID with respect to your PVC details, because every eligible voter in Nigeria is assigned to a polling unit where he or she will vote. Again, this information is provided. Now, in all of this, your VIN is an ID, and it's one of the determinants to screen who is able to submit. There are other determinants we have put there. So that's why I said it's not everybody that can log on. First, of course, you must be a supporter to come into the portal, because it's your choice. So, but so far so good. These are the issues. Now, portal 4, I began to talk about that quickly. It has to do with the 277 working committees we have designed for engagement. Because if we are going to move Nigerians from consumption to production, it then means there must be engagement. A lot of engagement, economic activities and the rest of them, job creation, diversification, so many issues are there we have tabled. Now, there is the portal for the registration and accreditation of the polling unit agents. Now, 33 polling unit agents are going to be accredited. Codes will be given to these 3 polling unit agents who would have identified themselves in the course of their earlier registration. Now, we have all of this information. From those information, we're able to do a critical assessment at the polling unit level. Remember, I said earlier, there is a 25-man polling unit executive council structure. Because when people talk about the structure, we say the structure are the people. It is the organization of the people for a particular action, and mobilization determines what we expect to get. So we have a 25-man plus a 3-man, a 25-man polling unit ESCO, plus a 3-man polling unit agent structure in every polling unit, 28, with a factor of maximum of 15, takes you between 375 to 400. So you realize now over this, like I said, the grant force is 5 million from these details. Now, when you integrate the lower limit and the upper limit, you have a minimum of 245 million expected vote delivery. Now, people may say all of these are for the internet. No, no, no. There's what we call the physical mobilization. We have designed the uplink and the downlink mobilization forms, physical forms. Now,
but all in all, we should be expecting at least 5 million votes for the Labour Party.
No. We are expecting at least a minimum of 45 million votes. Because 45 million votes, that is 28 by, remember I said a 5 million man by 9. 9 by 5 is 45. Am I right?
Yes.
So ideally, we're expecting a minimum of 45 million vote target for this election, for victory. Up to a maximum of 75 million, upper limit. That's why we say head or tail. From what we have designed and from the responses coming from the youth of this country and the people of this country, we are sure that the victory.
So you're saying, for instance, the PDP candidate, his 11 million votes will not matter where your 45 will be.
Yeah, just from our grassroots mobilization force, a 5 million man force that we are putting in place. We have begun to put it in place effectively. These are not for rhetoric. These are practical issues. A 5 million man force by 2.5 person per polling unit councils the much talked about 11 million votes that has been paraded. So even without making any move, we have surpassed 11 million votes without the noise.
But these parties have been here for ages, or let me not say ages anyway, but the structures are, deep-rooted. People say whenever the question about Labour Party's movements and progress is, people say, these other parties, they are not sleeping. The APC, the PDP. In fact, there's an argument that they've been planning for at least, both parties have been planning, the major parties have been planning for at least 4 years. The Labour Party just began to gain momentum about 3 months ago, or let's say 2 months ago, when Peter Obi moved to that party. So, really, how do you think? Because what you're describing now, it seems to be new structure being built. How can this new structure that is just a couple months old hope to fight the ones that have been on ground, deep-rooted, and that have been here for ages?
Okay, thank you. There is no political activities in this dispensation, 1999 to date, that has been fruitful in Nigeria without the active support of the Nigerian labor movement. There is none. There is none. Now, I want to say this first. The Nigerian labor movement, the NLC, the Nigerian Labour Congress, registered the Labour Party in 2003. Then the name was Party for Social Democracy. In 2004, in a convention, the name was changed to the Labour Party. Now, but the advantage or advantages they have taken over the Labour Party over time was because the labor movement, the NLC, the TUC, the trade unions have had cause to support the APC, the PDP, and other government in the past. And haven't seen the level of decadence in administration and incompetence, the labor movement decided to return home to its own party. Because, like we say, the Labour Party is the baby of the labor movement. The Labour Party was registered by the labor movement. And today, the labor movement in its entirety, the NLC, the TUC, the trade unions, the political commission, 7 other political parties, came home together to adopt their own political party, the Labour Party, as the third force political party to create an alternative for Nigerians. I started by telling you this to say that support that brought in PDP, that support that brought in APC was barely in the making when he won election in 2014 or 2015 on the grounds of all we saw. The defamation, the name calling, all of it, of that government, that NAPC, a measure of what it was, that they won election. Labour Party is about the oldest political party in existence in Nigeria. Apart from maybe the PDP that came in 1998, Labour Party was registered in 2003. APC came up just about, say, 2014, thereabout. So the structures we are talking about here basically is the people, the working population, the working force of this country. These are owners of the Labour Party. The grassroots, the artisan, the market men, the market women, the students, all of these persons are the owners of Labour Party. And above all, the youth of this country are unanimous in their decision to enthrone a new order on the platform of the Labour Party with His Excellency Peter Obi as our presidential candidate. So probably if we are talking of how many buildings the APC has, you of course you can give that to them and the PDP. They have all the buildings because they have served previously and they have mismanaged our wealth, our common wealth, to buy some of these buildings. How did they buy them? Government funds, our common purse, our common patrimony. So if that is what people call structure, yeah, Labour Party can say we do not have those buildings. But if it is the people who are the real structure, be rest assured that today we have the largest structure anywhere in the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
All right, that's fair, and I think there's a lot of confidence in what you're saying. Now let's talk a little bit about the tags that, what I call it, the Obidient movement has gotten over time. Some persons link it to IPOP. Some persons link them or liken them to the APC in 2015, saying that you know, using some similar tactics and all that. I'd like to know what's your take or your response to these allegations that people make, that, especially online, that Obidients and the Obi movement, they are very, you know, rabid, or that, you know, they don't, some people call them disobedient, that they don't, you know, listen, they attack persons and all that. Is there any truth to this? If there is, what's your response?
You see, basically, I want to take us back memory lane. APC in 2014, 2015, or 2013 to 2015, we saw what happened in this country, how they unleashed mayhem in the social space against Nigeria. Then if you're a PDP member, you couldn't say anything. They would besiege your entire space. However correct you were, I mean, you won't get away with it.
So is that what the Labour Party is doing?
No. I'm with regards to history.
Okay.
But if what we have today is nothing compared to what the APC did, ideally, but of course, today, Nigerians have a viable candidate in the personality of His Excellency Peter Obi. Now, it is this same APC and other political parties' supporters who are creating this narrative on the social space, because the only way they can defame the Labour Party today is to begin to create pseudo accounts and pseudo positions against what we represent. We have not missed on what we represent. What we represent is a political party with an agenda and a political candidate, presidential candidate, that is credible. His Excellency has said severally, for every statement he has made, go and verify. So if we, the supporters or the leadership of the party, continue to emphasize that point of verification, how have we offended anybody? How? If His Excellency built roads in Anambra State as a basis of verification, we say go and verify. I mean, I'm saying this to say, we need to be conscious of what is going on. Labour Party, his supporters, are not the one engaging on this malicious or dangerous trend. Because we have not campaigned in the contrary. We have not made projections in the contrary. How do you begin to accuse the people whose principal says go and verify his claim?
But some people say that on about 2 occasions, he himself has come out to say, calm down, don't attack anybody. I will, if, he even speaks about other candidates, that if any other candidates should come after him, that his followers should stay back and allow him respond. So people take this admonition that he gives as an inkling as to, that, or basically him admitting that he knows that his followers are sometimes or could be out of control.
No, the followers are in control. Like we say, we are in control. We have not campaigned out of the ordinary. People need to understand the issues. His Excellency Peter Obi and his supporters, those of us at the hierarchy of the party, we have not said anything contrary to what himself has said consistently. So where is the disagreement? So if Obidients are emphasizing, echoing what His Excellency Peter Obi is saying, where have they gone wrong? So I think we need to begin to understand these dynamics. Because if Peter Obi says, this is what I have done, and somebody says elsewhere that, no, he did not do that thing, and he said, go and verify, and his supporters are just emphasizing the same thing himself has said, then where is the attack coming from? How is it that it is the Obidients that are now attacking? I don't know if you are getting the point I'm making. We need to be rational in this perspective to look at these issues critically. Because my coming to the public space now is to enlighten us on some of these issues. Obidients do not campaign outside what our principal himself has said severally, that he keeps saying. So why the attack?
Right. So now let's talk about your path to victory.
Yes.
It seems, at least to an extent, very dependent on youths. You already mentioned something earlier, so I want to take you up on that. What is the plan for youth? What is your candidate, Peter Obi's plan for youth? Seeing as they're so involved in this process, let us assume, come 2023, he wins and he gets to Aso Rock. What happens to the youth? What is his plan for them?
Basically, there's a working plan. There is, for instance, himself has said, the policy thrust of each administration on the platform of the Labour Party will be anchored on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Of course, these are global goals adopted in 2015 by the United Nations for global actions. What are the issues? The 17 of them. No poverty, to end hunger, sustainable education, healthcare provision, infrastructural development, investment in every aspect of human life, engaging production, and the list continues. Sustainable life on the sea, on the earth, sustainable environment, the planet. Basically, these are issues that have bearing on the individuals, the community, and the nation. Again, the extent to which we are able to implement these goals will determine the extent to which we impact lives. And the way to impact life is to create the enabling environment for engagement, sustainable and job creation. SMEs.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. The unemployment, especially for the youth, is quite high.
The policy thrust for the administration is quite simple. We are not reinventing the wheels. It's just by the level of implementation. So he's saying, needless to begin to crack our head, there are basic universal goals that we need to attain between now and, say, 2030. So the lifetime of this administration, the first instance will be 4 years. 2023 to 2027. The other 4 years, by the grace of God, will be 2031. So, and within the span of 7 years, we the leadership and Labour Party would have attained these goals for Nigerians. So this is the policy thrust of the administration. Of course, it is on this policy thrust that we are going to implement all of the issues that border on what? Production and productivity. For instance, what is power? Where is power in Nigeria? Where is our agriculture? Where are our industries? Where is the place of education, the health care, the road infrastructure? Mention them. Capacity building.
Yeah, maybe we'll expand on that just for lack of time.
Yes.
I want you to clear the air or, respond to a particular, will I call it an accusation or allegation? People say that the candidate, Peter Obi, is not the biggest when it comes to delegation. They see him, he goes around himself. So there's this impression that he does things alone and he doesn't move with the people. Now, with your constituency being mainly focused on the youth and this obedience movement being very heavily, hinged on youths, are you being carried along by the presidential candidate? Do you feel he's working as a team and not just a one-man show, which will continue if he should win the presidency?
Basically, in life, there's what called the individual responsibility, and there are the collective responsibility or responsibilities. Now, we are a political party. Now, the political party is guided by the rules and schedules as imposed by the INEC. For instance, campaigns have not begun until sometimes in September 28. Now, the electoral process or processes as they are now is such that by today, all things being equal, the list of the candidates for elective offices officially will be released. Now, but before now, none of us, ideally as it were, will have been able to engage the activities he's engaging. Now, he needs to continue on the familiarization tour as a presidential candidate with our vice presidential candidate. The much he can do is the familiarization tour. That's what he's doing, visiting the elders, visiting the states, visiting Nigerians at home, particularly, even in the diaspora, to explain his intention, to explain the approach, to explain the direction in which the government will face. Now, this has been going on. Now, the aspect of carrying along will now commence sooner, when the presidential campaign organization will have been unveiled, the structural composition organogram will have been fully occupied, the schedule of activities for campaigns will have been released, now the engagement will commence. That way, whenever you see His Excellency Peter Obi on the stage, you see Comrade Eragbe, Anslem, the national leader, you see the national chairman, you see other working committee members, you see other campaign members. At that level, you see other youths in an organized fashion. So basically, I think this is it. So it's not working in isolation. We are being carried along. Like we say, there are different levels of engagement and interaction. So there are consultations going on. He consults the party. He gets feedback. He goes out to reach out. He comes back and gives feedback. Now, sooner, all the candidates will have a retreat. Are we together? With His Excellency, all of us as candidates will sit down in 2 or 3 days retreat thereabout and map out the strategy of how to engage. Because, of course, every candidate knows where it pitches in his own domain. He knows who ultimately should be on board. Right. He knows how to deploy that strategy at the polling unit area. So all of these things are coming to manifestation. All
right, Engineer Eragbe, we've run out of time now, but I do hope we can have you back sometime for to give more details on some of the things we've mentioned today. But otherwise, it's been great having you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bless you.
All right.